Hello everyone, it's really lovely to see you. I hope you're all well. Our story tonight is called The Frog Who Couldn't Ribbit, and it's by Rod Baber and the illustrations are by Anne Wilson. You might not know this story, but I quite like it because it's got quite a good message in it. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there lived a frog in Greendom called Rupert. Now, Rupert was a very unhappy frog because, unlike all his frog friends, he could not ribbit. One day, Rupert decided to leave Greendom in search of Trevor, the terrifically talented trout, in a quest to find his ribbit. The distance would be far, over the Lumpity River and the Marshmallow Mountains, and then across the Pongo Plains, but Rupert's spirit was so strong that nothing could sway him from his path. After a full day's hopping, Rupert arrived at the Hip Hop Cafe on the edge of the Lumpity River. It was where all the hippest, hoppiest frogs hung out. Rupert coolly hopped up to the counter and asked the groggiest frog how to cross the river. All the other frogs stared at Rupert. Some even knocked over the glasses of frog grog. They knew that only a few foolish frogs had ever dared to cross the river, and no one had ever returned. "My little green one," croaked the groggiest frog, "the only way across is on Oscar the Odd Otter. But if you don't amuse him, he'll gobble you up. He has a terrible taste for little frogs." Rupert wasn't put off. He gulped his fly juice and hopped down to the river's edge. Oscar the Odd Otter slimed towards him and smiled a slithery smile. "Do you want to ride?" "Oh, yes, please," said Rupert bravely. "Then jump on," the smiling otter said. The little frog jumped onto the otter's tummy and they started to swim across the river. In the middle, the otter stopped. "Entertain me or I'll eat you up, from your wet, webbed feet to your glistening green ears," he snarled. Rupert. "Okay, you smelly, wet, stinky, odious otter, watch this!" Rupert yelled. Then, using his biggest hop of all time, he parachuted over to the other side of the river, leaving Oscar snarling far behind. But the big bad world is a dangerous place for a little frog, and Rupert had forgotten that at the bottom of the Marshmallow Mountains lived the fearsome marshmallow monsters. How could he cross the Pongo Plains without getting squashed? You don't want a squashed frog. Then he remembered marshmallow monsters love marvellous melons. If he could only find a melon marvellous enough, he was sure he could count on their help. Soon he found what he was looking for, a melon so moist and marvellous, no monster could resist it. At the first monster he came to, Rupert nervously cleared his throat. "Excuse me, Mr. Monster," he said politely. "Would you let me go across the Pongo Plains in exchange for this truly marvellous melon?" Let him go. The monster scratched his hairy head and rolled his roving eyes. "All right," he said, scooping Rupert up in his paw and carrying him right across the Pongo Plains to the edge of the Pongo Pond. "Does Trevor the terrifically talented... that's hard to say. Does Trevor the terrifically talented trout live here?" asked Rupert. "Yes," said the monster, "but he'll only appear if he thinks your question deserves a reply." "Okay," said Rupert, lowering his mouth to the pond. "It's Rupert, the frog here," he said. "Please, can you make me ribbit?" Oh, Rupert waited and waited and waited. His little frog heart sank to his webbed feet. Perhaps Trevor wasn't going to answer him. Oh, downheartedly he turned to head for home, but just as he did so, he heard Trevor the trout bubbling to the surface. "Why do you want to ribbit?" huffed the fish. Because I just want to be an average, straight-down-the-line, normal frog," Rupert replied. "Normal is boring," puffed Trevor, "but I'll grant you your wish. But you must swear not to ribbit for 12 whole frog months." "Oh, OK," said Rupert. Then Trevor gave Rupert 2 small jars of reinforcing ribbit replacement juice, and Rupert drank them down. "Don't forget your promise," said Trevor, as Rupert thanked him and hopped off for home. The marshmallow monster helped him back across the river, and at last, tired and exhausted, Rupert arrived back home. He told his friends all about his amazing adventure, and when he had finished, none of the other frogs asked if they could hear his new ribbit. They know he has to keep it quiet for a whole year. Well, Rupert kept his promise, and for 12 whole frog months not a ribbit passed his lips. He thought he understood what Trevor had meant. Because he'd been different, instead of an average, straight-down-the-line, normal frog, he'd seen things that no other frog had seen, and done something that no other frog would do. So when the big day came, Rupert hopped onto his favourite lily pad, opened his mouth wide, and didn't make a sound. He liked being different. He liked being the frog who couldn't ribbit. He liked being him, just the way he was. And you know what? So did everyone else. You see, he'll ribbit when he's ready. Sometimes that's just the way it is. Well, it's bedtime, so I hope you have a lovely sleep. Off you go. Go and get some teeth cleaned and get your pyjamas on and get yourself ready. I'm sorry, I've got wet hair because I have just been in the bath, and I'm all ready for my bed and ready for a really lovely sleep. So I hope you have a good one, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.